Hi, everybody. I'm Laura.
Hi, I'm Katie, and welcome to our podcast.
Sisters across the pond. So, welcome and thank you so much for coming and joining us today. We'd just like to say, please just note, whatever we discuss today, it really does come, all our words come from a genuine and grounded place of kindness.
So let's pause, take a deep breath, relax the shoulders, release the breath, and just be.
Lovely. So, episode number 3. Woo, woo, woo.
Fantastic.
Introduction to yoga.
Mm.
This is our topic for today. So,
It is.
gosh, now I was thinking about this topic because obviously we've been speaking about different things that we want to talk about, that we're passionate about, and things like that. And I was thinking, when was I introduced to yoga? Because my initial introduction to yoga is worlds apart to where I am with yoga now.
Oh,
because
same.
yeah, it was just, I think maybe, well, we were very young, because we used to go to classes together.
Yeah.
Didn't we? So it was, and we just used to laugh, really, didn't we?
I feel like it was Carol's class.
Could have been.
And I believe you said that the church hall where we used to go is no more. It got knocked down. Yeah. And I think, because I've been thinking about it as well, like, when did I first go? When was it? And that's the place that I keep coming back to.
Yeah, I think I tried it earlier than that.
Yeah.
I think maybe when I used to go to the local gyms, I think I'd tried a yoga class because they used to do like yoga classes, Pilates classes, whatever, all other different types of classes are available at your local gyms as well.
Well, who knows? Not at the moment, but
well, no, not at the moment.
Maybe online through the online. So I think that's my kind of actual first class scenario was in that kind of church hall place with Carol. But I think before that, it was a book, because I remember there being a like kind of cheapy bookshop in the shopping centre in Bury.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going in and being like, I bought a book on meditation and a book on yoga. And it must have been like with my paper round money or something. So I would have been young.
So it was already, the seed was planted, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Back then.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then obviously, our darling cousin, Janine, she became a yoga teacher, and then it became quite the family occasion going to one of Janine's yoga classes. So it would be, obviously we'd be there, and then there'd be cousins and aunties, mum would go. So
it's a family affair.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I'd drag along anyone. So obviously my darlings, Andy and Paddy, would come when they were home. And that was always very entertaining, with those two both being dancers. They're extremely flexible. And so I would often end up with like my mat space being encroached upon by their flexible feet.
Non-competitive sport turns into a competitive sport.
Yeah, just add 2 friends. Yeah, it was. Although I must admit,
they're not not just friends. Sorry.
No, the
Sorry. We
kind
need
of
to
family.
drop that.
Yeah.
You know, they are part of the family. And then not only that, they're just lovely darlings, aren't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sickly good looking.
Oh, go away. We even watch their videos. I watch their outtakes when they're like laughing themselves, like falling over. And I'm still thinking, oh, you're just still both so gorgeous. How can you look so gorgeous when you're laughing your head off like that? I don't look like
that. all the photos from your wedding of us all laughing, and it was just chins.
Yeah, chins on chins. Yeah. Oh God.
I do think that's part of our like Murphy ancestry, though. The chins and cheeks. Definitely run in the family.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because obviously I work with Janine now,
yes.
and it's like as soon as either Janine says or I say that we're related, they all go, oh yeah, do you know? I mean, we do have to point it out sometimes because obviously she's got a gorgeous, really short cropped blonde hair just now, hasn't she? Looking funky as ever, and but I'm like, yeah, we're cousins with the round balls in our cheeks. Yeah. And then I said, all the cousins, all the female cousins, we all smile at it. Well, from here, we're just exactly the same.
We are. Do you know, I'll have to find that photo.
Oh, you will. I love that photo.
It's an old one from Auntie Peggy's house.
Yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie. We'll have to post it.
Yeah, we'll post it. I mean, I'd say we should ask permission, but no. I don't know. Who's on there? Me, you, Janine, Sam, and Leanne, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. All right.
Well, they'll be fine. They'll be fine with it. But yeah, so I suppose for me, yoga has such a strong family connection, and that is what I expect to feel. I expect to feel that when I go into a yoga studio, is just some warmth and some connection with other people.
A really big hug.
Yeah. And so, I mean, honestly, I don't know what drew me to yoga. I don't know what fascinated me, whether it was this kind of mystical kind of thing from the East. You know, it's like it kind of gets sold in that kind of package sometimes, doesn't it? Because that, you know, that's where it came from. It came out of India, and so it was quite back then quite mystical.
It's become very westernized as well, hasn't it? Since it's
absolutely
more and more as it's worked its way over. But yeah, I totally get that as well. The whole because probably the early years in yoga were around family.
Yeah.
Like you say, we walked into the studio and it would be aunties, cousins, whatever. So it was like an extended community, and that's the way it's supposed to make you feel anyway.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple of stories where it's just been like red rag, honestly, like warning signs, like woo woo woo. But you know, every yoga class, yoga teacher, yoga studio, all so many different variations and styles, and so each to their own. But I do remember going to a class, and I'd just moved into the area, so I was trying to find myself a nice studio, nice community that I could join and make friends, and I rocked up to this studio. And it was my fault initially because the lady had asked me if I can't remember what it was now. Was it she asked, had I ever done yoga before?
And
I thought she was asking, had I ever been there to that studio before?
Oh,
so I said no. Bearing in mind, at this point, I'm teaching children yoga, so I'm a yoga teacher. I hadn't done my adult yoga teacher training, but I'm teaching kids yoga because I've been doing yoga for years, so experience.
Yeah.
So at the end of the class, I went over and I said, oh, that's that. I said, I really enjoyed that class. Thank you very much. For me, I didn't connect with the teacher because during the class, she pointed to the lady in the front row saying, this is how everybody should look right now. I was like, no, we're all different, body geometry and everything into consideration. Yeah. But anyway, I just sort of like rolled through that. And then at the end, she turned around and said to me, yeah, you can tell you've not done yoga before.
Rude. Novice.
I was like, oh.
Maybe, do you know what? Maybe it was just the moment where you wanted to experience it all like it was the first time, you know, and observe your own body in the moment. And
yeah, maybe that's exactly what it was. I had no idea what I was doing. I couldn't follow instructions. But no. Or maybe it was just, I know my body and I know what my body's comfortable in doing.
Yeah. And you know, and that's one of those things, isn't it? Is that like, yeah, absolutely. There is this kind of, we're bombarded with images of how yoga poses are supposed to look, she says in air quotes, you know, and it's so funny going through like the teacher training and again, developing your own practice. But you do really find out that everybody's downward dog looks different, really, if you break everyone down in that way. And, you know, you see these most amazing people. And I must admit, it's really hard for me to get out of that little bit of internal competition that goes on in my head. It's like, well, I can do that. And then the times where I'm like, yeah, I can't do that.
Do you see yourself? Because I actually see myself. I sometimes look at these like poses and I'm go, oh, that's exactly what I look like. And then I'm like,
yeah, well, because I have that, I flippantly like to call it reverse body dysmorphia. Now, I absolutely recognize that body dysmorphia is a serious issue for a lot of people out there in the world. However, in some ways, I feel like I have the reverse. I think that I am, and maybe this is great, I think that I am stick thin, can fit through any gap, can fit in any tight space. It's a nightmare when trying to buy clothes because I think that I'm tiny and I think I'm going to look good in everything. And I don't. I absolutely don't. And so, yeah, so I have that weird kind of like, yeah, gosh, I must look amazing doing this. And then if you're fortunate enough or unfortunately enough to have a mirrored studio, you quickly realize that that's not what you look like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do see myself in those pictures. I'm like, oh yeah, that looks really, and it's because they make it look easy. It tricks me into thinking it's an easy pose.
Yeah, definitely.
Never is.
Well, that's it. I mean, and it's like I just mentioned body geometry as well. Do you know the things my body just does not get into there, and it doesn't matter. You know, like for example, a really good example is the lotus swing. Okay, so I've just been doing this, and I cannot do the lotus swing. The reason being I can't do the lotus swing is because my arms are short. Yeah. My arms are too short. There is no way that my bones are going to grow any longer now at the ripe old age that I am. That's not going to happen. No. So I'm never going to be able to do the lotus swing because this is who I am.
Yeah. And you know what? And that's one of the great things about kind of props and prop usage. And I definitely see it in classes where, you know, the instructor will cue certain props and you just see people not use them. And it's like, well, that's, you know, it's great if you don't need to use it, but you're allowed to use it to be able to achieve the pose that you're going for. Sometimes we just
without causing
you injury, without causing you pain. Yeah.
And also I think as well, I think that's I mean, I used to be the same. I used to be like, no, I don't need any additional resources to help me achieve this pose.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, well, actually, if I use this, I can achieve this. Therefore, mentally, I'm like on cloud 9 because I've achieved it. Where before, I could have potentially injured myself because I didn't want to be seen using a prop.
Yeah. And then in my yin training, we, talked about obviously the body. And we were just talking about the different joints in the body and how, if you think about like the hips, obviously that's a ball and socket joint. Now
that's what you see in the mirror, isn't it?
This is what I see in the mirror. This is me. This is me. I am petite, no breasts, no hips. I am just
everything fits you.
Yeah, everything just hangs off me. I am skeletal. But no, like it's okay. It's like the hip, being that kind of ball and socket joint. And some people have a really deep socket which just envelops the ball. And so the reality of those people ever getting into the splits in any direction,
and
is
some people's
probably
hips are face forward, some people's hips are tilted a bit further out. So, like doing your wide leg poses, some people are like, whoa, look at this. And then some people are like, oh.
And so if we hold ourselves to
those shoulders as well are the same,
Yeah. And if we hold ourselves to those standards, then I suppose it's like I mentioned in week 1, I don't like setting myself up to fail. I don't do New Year's resolutions,
Yeah.
And it's been a lesson to kind of learn to actually listen to what my body is saying.
I think that's been my journey. Probably since I started teaching, I would say, more than anything else. I really used to enjoy yoga classes and really get so much out of it mentally as well as physically. But then from teaching, I'm going to going on my teacher training journey. Easy for you to say.
Yeah.
The kids course. From then I started to really be in tune with my own body and really listen to my own body. And I think because a lot of it was jumping about with the kids and really getting, because that's what yoga is about, storytelling with the kids and getting into all these different, and there's no big explanation of getting down into poses because you don't teach children like that. No. They jump down, they hop down, they jump up there. So you've got to come at them with the energy level that they're at,
I was just going to say feed off their energy. And that's really great for over over 30.
Anyway, moving on.
Say over 30 in general.
But then doing my adult teacher training and then the yin and all the other bits of yoga training that I've done, I think that journey really developed with me the self-discovery, my own body, and when to notice things and really be in tune. That's my complete style of teaching, because the course that I did in the adult teacher training, they really draw on you being your own authentic self and try and guide you into what style and give you all a variety of where you want to go. And that's my style, is all about being mindful about all the movement going on in your body, listening to your body through movement. So that really, really does, rather than we're going to do warrior and we're going to,
Yeah.
So even though I flow through these poses, I'd like to slowly recognizing each movement and noticing the twinges and the little creaks and cracks and stuff like that. So
yeah, and also there's a class for everyone.
Oh
because
gosh.
there's so many people teaching yoga, and it really is about what you're going to get out of it. So for anyone out there who's having a listen and you're thinking about starting yoga, don't give up after the first class. Like if you go in there and maybe it's the teacher that isn't for you, maybe it's the environment that isn't for you, don't worry, there is a class out there that will be for you. And I've tried a bunch of different styles, a bunch of different teachers, and I'm starting to figure out what I want. And like what I mentioned earlier is like the expectation that I have for yoga was really formed in those like earlier years. So I am looking for that family. I'm looking for the community. I'm looking to not be judged in a class, you know, and all of those lovely things. And I've been to some beautifully spiritual classes. And, you know, I can get in that zone. I can absolutely appreciate the sacredness of the space. But what fits for me more is a combination of like the sacred space, but also like the warm hug of family and a little chuckle. But I must admit,
with COVID-19,
not with COVID, yeah, unfortunately. But there's some amazing online teachers right now, and a lot of studios. You know, really support your local studios because those guys are really suffering right now. You know, anything that we can do to just help those guys survive through this is welcome.
Yeah, definitely.
Help us. That kind of includes us on that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole oh gosh, the news just now is just flooded with mental health issues and stuff like that. And I don't really want to go down that path just like right now, but like you say, for you listeners out there, you know, do what you've got to do to join a class and one week and not be there the next. The yoga teacher doesn't take it to heart.
No.
You know, because they know all about the connections that people need to make, because a yoga teacher holds your space. And if you're not willing to let the yoga teacher hold your space, then it's not right for you and you're not going to get the benefits that you should be getting. So it's worth keep going, because that is definitely what I did. I need, just the same as you, Katie, I really need that connection. And I was lucky to, I mean, I have been to a few not great classes. Obviously I gave it. But then, you know, I've met so many wonderful yoga teachers along the way, and really bonded with them as well and stayed in touch. And so, yeah, it's just about being determined and self-care. It's got to be right for you. Don't feel like you need to be
living up to anyone else's standards.
Yeah, definitely.
It's about you and your body and making that work for you. And kind of going back to like, I honestly do love a giggle, and especially an unexpected giggle in a yoga class. And going back to Andy and Paddy coming to one of Nina's classes back in the day, and I do remember that an older lady had gone into one of the poses. I think it might have even been like just tucking the knees into the chest kind of a thing, and she let out quite the fart. There's no other way and all you could see was I'm like rolling, looking at either side of me, and we're all just kind of shoulders are going, trying not to laugh out loud. And it's just, you know, you've got to find the humor in these things. It's funny.
Yeah.
And then I saw online the other day the
Joe
Wicks, and he's letting out a ripper when he's doing his live class. And then that just honestly, I was like, yep, Welcome to the body. You move it in certain ways and it's going to make certain noises, not just creaking and cracking.
I know. That's a good thing about being at home for yoga classes just now, though, isn't it? Because you're muted, nobody can hear you, and I because obviously I deliver classes online, and I'm always saying that. I'm like, listen, like if we're doing a breath and a sigh out, I'm like, sigh it out, make as much noise as you want, and then I'll say, right, we're gonna do like apanasana. Knees into the chest. This is a good wind releaser. Remember, no one can hear you. Do you know? Do you know? And it's just like everyone's in their own home. But then I am one, do you know, like you said about you like a good giggle.
Yeah.
The things that go through my head and that end up, sometimes I don't have that connection. And I'll be teaching and I always go into the override. Do you know? And it just comes out my mouth and I go, oh, sorry, that's something that shouldn't have connected from my brain. It should have stayed up there. Sorry. And because I teach kids, I sometimes go, oh, yeah, then don't forget, like if you're in downward dog, cock your leg up and have a pee. Because the kids love that. Do you know? They absolutely love anything like that. So, and I do so I always have to say, I'm really sorry. Sometimes it just comes out. We have to go with it.
Have to.
So
just gotta go with the flow.
I know. And I'm also, I have to really be aware of not breaking out into song if something's said. Do you know?
Yeah. It's those connections though. Those connections, because we're both very similar in that way. It's like all it takes is for someone to say a certain set of words, and if that is a line in a song, then it's gonna come out.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. I think that happened actually in the class I taught last week.
Oh, I haven't done it yet. I've just not had the time. I will do it.
That's okay. Yeah, I at one point told people to put their arms like an arm above and there was an arm out, and I was like an L. And I was like, L for love. And then I'm like, in my head, I'm like, don't sing, don't sing, don't sing. And the L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. And I was just like, why? Why did I have to do that? But I can't help it.
No.
And I the older I get, the more I realize that, especially if it's something I find funny, it's either a song or it's something that I find funny. And if I can't say it there and then, I'm either going to mutter it under my breath or it just is playing on a loop and I have to say it. And then it might not even make any sense. It's completely out of context. But if it doesn't get out, then there's no room in my brain for anything else.
No, it just spirals. It's like a little bouncy ball that just bounces off your brain everywhere because you need to get it out. Yeah, I know. I'm the same. So it's just about how we could talk. We're quite weird, aren't we? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I suppose you kind of touched on a little earlier about kind of finding yoga in like new places. So obviously you've moved a couple of times over the past few years, and just once or twice. And I've moved, a big move from the UK to Canada. And like finding yoga, I know I mentioned that it took me about 6 years to make like a group of friends, and that was through yoga, you know. But getting my foot over the threshold into the class, into the studio, that was the hardest part for me.
Yeah.
And it's because of my because of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that family kind of vibe. And you know,
fuzzy warm feeling.
Yeah, and it's sad that it took me so long, because the studio where I go, Alchemy, shout out,
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Jody and Kyle, who own the studio, that's, you know, their shining jewel is how well that they hold the community, and they value the community as well.
You can tell that over everything that they've been doing recently. I mean, I follow Alchemy on social media, and they have just done so much throughout this global pandemic. It's heartwarming. It really is. They come from such a beautiful place, and they just ooze like love and kindness. Absolutely. And it's just so lovely. It really is so lovely to watch. You know, like I know they've just finished their like 30 days of hope, and they've just committed to just getting out there and putting a positive spin on what for the majority of the world have been negative times.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been,
and it's just, they're like kind of, I know I don't like to put anybody on a pedestal. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't like to do that to people, because we're all equals. But they really do. I really do look at them and just think, wow, the time, the energy, the inclination, the ideas, everything that they've put into what they've done, everything they've produced over this time, and the words that they speak. I could go on for ages about them. Do you know? They're just
me too. I could gush about Jodie and Kyle all day, and and several teachers from there as well. You know, because it is that kind of really nice, warm family community feeling, which is what I look for my yoga. And although actually they did mention that they're about to do a challenge in February, and I was like, I'm gonna have to sign up for that, because, you know, if I'm being honest, my self-discipline when it comes to home practice, it's not solid. It's not a solid it's not a solid practice when I'm at home, I'm afraid. It's like but I suppose that's it, isn't it? It's like, if you think about what I look for in a class, in a studio, I'm not getting that when I'm at home.
No.
And so it kind of makes sense that there's not going to be that kind of dedication to turn up and do the class, because it's
that's it. Some people need that. They need to get out of their home environment, and it's their time to go on their little journey to the yoga studio, to park up, to get out, to walk into an environment that is their full passion and commitment to yoga, by going through that process. And like you say, that's been taken away from us just now, so we just have to try and make the most of what's available just now, don't we? Around
as best as possible
the world. But hey, that's our sort of like whistle top. Put
your teeth in.
I'm not having a bit of a mouth on what was it?
On a cheese and onion pasty. No, I had chips, cheese and gravy for my dinner last night, or as the Canadians call it, poutine.
Poutine. Whistle stop tour.
Whistle stop tour.
Of our introduction to yoga. So and long the journey is, well, for me, it keeps beginning all the time, because it's, you know, it began all those years ago, and then I looked at it from a different perspective. Then I looked at it from a teaching kids perspective. Then I looked at it for going on a whole self-discovery journey for myself and teaching adults, and then like spiraling off to like specialisms. So the journey is just huge, and it's just a fantastic journey that I'm on, and I feel totally blessed that I'm on this journey. And it's thanks to like Creative Calm, the beautiful Janina Chelsea, that I'm on this journey.
Absolutely. You know? The long and winding road. See? Can't help it. Can't help it.
I know.
All right then.
Well, that's
episode 3 in the bag.
Wow. Can you believe that? Episode 3. Right, well, we'll be back for episode 4.
Yeah, absolutely. So, see you, love you, bye.
See you, love you, bye. Mwah.